And good afternoon to you. We are breaking in right now. We are awaiting a news conference by Hamilton County Prosecutor Connie Pillich. She's expected to address the case involving a Cincinnati police officer or police officers who shot and killed an 18-year-old suspect who was taking off and running away with what police say he had a gun in his hand.
City of Cincinnati has been on pins and needles now for 47 days. This happened back on May 1st. We're talking about a situation where police were chasing this young man, and let's go right now live to the Hamilton County Prosecutor Connie Pillich and finding out, will charges be filed against this officer involved in that shooting on May 1st?
Decision regarding the May 1st, 2025 officer-involved shooting death of Ryan Hinton. Throughout this press conference, I will not reveal the officer's name because Marcy's law precludes me from doing so. I instead will refer to him as Officer A. And in fact, I do mention a total of 4 officers in this presentation. And just to keep it easy for you, I'm going to call them Officer A, Officer B, Officer C, and Officer D. This incident happened over 6 weeks ago. And I know that many may prefer quick decisions, but that does not serve justice. My office and I must evaluate these situations on a case-by-case basis. That alone dictates how long the review takes. And justice requires that my office and I conduct a thorough review of all the evidence of the case in an objective manner, free from preconceptions or outside interference, and that the decision is compliant with the law and not with emotion. We received the final forensics report recently, and we finalized our review just yesterday, so I immediately called a press conference to give you the results. And I'm confident that my decision was based on every fact available and was made with due diligence and the utmost care. The officer-involved shooting on May 1st, 2025, from my review, I have determined that Officer A was legally justified in his use of force on that day. I want to thank my staff for the rigor, time, talent, and tremendous scrutiny they employed during this review. I did not send this to the grand jury, but instead I made my decision based on the review and recommendation of my senior staff. And let's be clear about this. I am the only person responsible for this decision. I assure you that I take this responsibility seriously, as I do every aspect of my job. Just moments ago, I notified the Chief of Police, city leadership, and lawyers for the Hinton family and the FOP. And before we move forward, I just want to give you a little outline of what you're going to see and hear in this presentation. I'm first going to tell you what the role of my office is in making such decisions, and then I'm going to give you an overview of the law involved. After that, I'll walk you through the events leading up to the incident. We're going to talk a little bit about Ryan Hinton's gun, and then talk about the incident itself. And I will conclude with my legal analysis. We will review, in some cases, the evidence second by second, and in some cases down to 1/100th of a second. The first step is to understand what the prosecutor's role is in a situation like this. My job is to evaluate whether the officer's use of force against Ryan Hinton was justified and to determine whether there are grounds to bring criminal charges against the officer for murder. And to do this, we have to perform a Fourth Amendment analysis. We're guided by the United States Supreme Court in how we handle this. The use of force must be objectively reasonable under the totality of the circumstances. To determine what is objective, we just use the ordinary dictionary definition, meaning to not be influenced by personal feelings or opinion, and to rely on verifiable information based on the facts. And the facts and circumstances are those that are then known to the officer in the situation. So the question we present ourselves is, and the Supreme Court again directs us to answer this, whether deadly force deployed by the officer was justified from the perspective of a reasonable officer on the scene. This means we take into account the interests of both the individual and the government at stake. The second part of this equation is the totality of the circumstances. And when we talk about that, that means we have to look at all the relevant circumstances, including the facts prior to and leading up to the event of the incident. And there's no time limit into how far we can look back, because prior events may show why a reasonable officer might perceive some otherwise ambiguous conduct to be a threat. And again, the required perspective is that of a reasonable officer at the scene. We have to stand in the officer's shoes, perceive what the officer then perceived and acted within the limits of the officer's knowledge and information as it then existed. So you now know my role. You know the standards for review as directed by the Supreme Court. I'd like to move on to the events leading up to the incident. And we're going to start with the early morning hours of May 1st, 2025. 4 young men, Sincere Grigsby, Jarrell Austin, DeAnthony Bullocks, and Ryan Hinton, went to northern Kentucky in a stolen Kia Optima looking for cars and other valuables to steal. And we see evidence of this from the surveillance video provided to us by the Boone County Sheriff. The car with the headlights on holds the 4 young men, and you'll see them getting out. You'll see Ryan Hinton walk over. There he is, right by the white car on the right. You can see his jacket that had some white on the front. This is Bullocks coming to this white vehicle in the foreground, and that's Austin in the back. Watch how softly he closes the door. And he's wearing a yellow or white hoodie, sweatshirt. He's got a mask on, but we'll see him in that same outfit later in this presentation. And I think he runs across the street here to find another vehicle and try to find another one that's unlocked. The 4 men returned to Ohio and were found in this vehicle, which was reported stolen in northern Kentucky in the wee hours of May 1st, 2025. They drove it into this parking lot off of Warsaw Avenue. The entrance to the parking lot is up a very steep hill. It goes around the back of an apartment complex. They're parked by the woods. It's a pretty secluded spot. And as many of you already know, in cases of officer-involved shootings, CPD, the Cincinnati Police Department, immediately separates any officer involved or a witness to the incident. This is so that they can interview them later at the station. Officer D was the first on the scene, and in the statement he made to police later that day, He told detectives what he saw. He was investigating a stolen vehicle, a 2021 Telluride, which we showed. He saw it in the back of the parking lot. He saw at least one person inside. He backed out of the parking lot so he could confer with the other officers who were responding. When there's someone in a vehicle, you got to have a good plan on how to approach it. And by the time he returned, the occupants had already started running, and then he heard the shots. Officer B was the next to the scene. He sort of led the group that was responding en masse to the vehicle there. He was the first one there in this rotation. And you'll see his dash cam video in a moment. As he approached, he saw the driver, Grigsby, bail out and run towards a wooded area. And then he saw Hinton as the second one out. Hinton went a different path. He ran across what looks like a concrete pavement. Officer B saw Hinton stumble and fall. He heard the sound of metal against that pavement. He heard officers warn them that Hinton had a gun. Now we're going to watch Officer B's dash cam video. Please note that it takes something like 30 seconds for the audio to click in. That's just how the machine is designed. There's a Telluride. He blocks it in. There goes Grigsby. There goes Hinton, running a different direction. And there went Austin and Bullocks. Next, we're going to listen to the audio so that you won't be distracted by the video. You can listen to the audio. This is Officer B, his dash cam audio. And again, it might take some seconds to click in. I don't know about you, but I found it very easy to hear the alert, he's got a gun. Cincinnati police also interviewed multiple non-law enforcement witnesses. This was one of the men inside the car. He said, "Hey, when I woke up, one of these other three said, 'Police.' The police said, 'Freeze, get down.' And the witness said, 'I ran.'" He did again say in his interview, police did say freeze. And I heard the police officer say, somebody got a gun, they got a gun, he got a gun. This is one of the witnesses from the vehicle. Clearly, the suspects disregarded the officer's commands because we saw them all running in one of those videos. But most importantly here, another important aspect is the witness was asked about Hinton's gun. And he said it had a long clip and it was kind of brown or tan in color. Not the most common, perhaps. So we've gone over the events leading up to the incident, and before we review the incident, I wish to talk about Ryan Hinton's gun. It was a gun recovered at the scene, and it belonged to Ryan Hinton and was carried by him during the incident. Through investigation, Hinton's cell phone was recovered and photos were found on his cell phone. This is a picture of Ryan Hinton taken on April 28, 2025. He's posing with two guns, one of which is the one he was carrying at the scene and which was described by one of the men in the vehicle. It's unique in color, tan with a black top. Another photo taken on April 28th shows Hinton with the same gun he had at the scene. Hinton's also wearing the jacket he was wearing at the scene. And in that first video from Boone County, there were a couple of frames where you could see the white of the jacket. And this is the gun we found at the scene. Tan with a long clip and a black top. Let's now look at the incident. Look, you're going to see some body-worn camera video. You're going to see some still shots. These add to the evidence that we reviewed already. And obviously, body-worn cam and dash cam, that's important evidence in any investigation, but it's not the only evidence we look at. We look at officers' statements, we listen to what they say, and we look at the objective evidence we can find at the scene. So, first of all, Officer C, this is from the statement he gave to police after the incident. He responded to the scene because of a report of a stolen vehicle. He approached the stolen vehicle and the occupants began running. We saw them all begin running in the video cam. Officer C saw the gun in Hinton's hand and verbally alerted others that he had a gun. Officer A, this is the officer in question, he again responded because of the report of a stolen vehicle. Joining other officers who were already at the scene, he began by chasing Grigsby towards the wooded area. Officer A reported that he heard the warning about the gun, that he saw Hinton point a gun at him, and he then fired his service weapon. He said, "I thought I better get my gun out and shoot him before he shoots me, and I fired before he could fire on me." Before we get into the visuals, we're going to listen to the audio from Officer A's body-worn camera. Again, it may take a few seconds for the audio portion to begin, but you will hear Officer A gasp and say, "Gun," before firing his weapon. We learned that not long after the shots were fired, Officer A told the other officers there that Hinton had pointed a gun at him. And before we get into the next set of slides, I want you to know that these are still shots from Officer A's body-worn camera. And because the incident happened in less than 4 seconds, we wanted to show you some shorter snapshots of time. We just thought it was prudent to show you some single frames. And then look, it was a tremendous amount of work to go through these videos frame by frame, second by second, 1/100th of a second by 1/100th of a second. And keep in mind also that these body-worn cameras use a wide-angle lens, so it can create a sort of distorted fishbowl optical effect, and that can make it difficult for us to ascertain spatial details. And something we noted from these still shots. We're going to begin by showing that Officer A did not remove his firearm. You're going to see his right hand several times in those split 1/100ths of a second frames. You're going to see that he ran quite a way without even pulling on his holster. And it wasn't until the direct threat of Hinton with a gun that he acted. You're also going to see, and I'll point this out, that after falling and upon regaining his balance, Hinton makes the decision to pick up his gun and continue to run from officers right between some commercial dumpsters with the gun in his right hand. And it isn't until Officer A rounds the front of the left dumpster that he begins to remove his service firearm. At the same time, Hinton pops out, surprising him. There's his right hand. There's his right hand again. And in the distance, you see Hinton where he's fallen. And now he's reaching for the gun. The right hand is still empty. And he's still running after Grigsby at this point. Coming around the dumpster, this is the very first possible time he could have seen Hinton. And that's when he pulls out his gun. Can you stop it right there? So he's getting his gun ready. He will eventually have it in two hands. But you can see Hinton coming through. He's still between the dumpsters. But it's at this time, we can't see it because of the weapon in our viewpoint. This is certainly when Officer A knows that there's a weapon involved. Next slide. And this is where we see him running with the gun. You can see he's got that same sweatshirt on that we saw in the picture of him posing with two weapons. And this is the unfortunate moment when the first shot was fired. Based on the position of the body-worn camera, you can see Officer A was directly to the left of Hinton. They were probably 10 feet from each other. The angle of this shot was corroborated from the coroner in her report that Hinton was shot directly from the left side of his chest. And I want to show you a picture of the gun at the scene. Now, this is taken with a regular camera, so it's a little bit easier for our eyes to understand it. I'm going to point to a couple of things on the frame. Those parts of the black metal part appear to be scuffed. Could be from when he dropped the gun on the ground, on the concrete. Next one. So this is CIS taking pictures at the scene. They recovered the weapon. They're holding the extended magazine in one hand. You can see there's a bullet in the chamber ready to be fired. This is the extended magazine that was found. I'm going to point out something to you here. Each of those holes you see are numbered so that you can easily ascertain how many bullets are in and how many you have left. This clip holds 22 bullets. And recovered at the scene, including the bullet in the chamber, were 23 bullets. Some more regular camera shots. I'm going to point out a few things here. Remember, this is not a wide-angle lens, so it's a better reflection of the actual situation and the layout of the scene and the dimensions, the details, the depths. First of all, you can see two police vehicles. You can see at least two dumpsters. There's at least one more behind one of the left one. And these are just regular commercial dumpsters. They're probably the width of this doorway, sitting next to each other. And let me point out three things. So I pointed to the concrete pavement where Hinton fell and decided to pick up his weapon. The space between the dumpsters through which he ran, and a tree that's right behind the dumpster that's on our right. You can see that this is not a huge space. We can see the tree right here. We're going to get a better angle in a minute. But the tree is kind of in the middle of what's now the left-hand dumpster to our view. Hinton ran on the other side of it. And here, another view from in front of the other dumpster. I'm going to point out 3 things to you again. And when I said 3 things, I meant 4. So you can see the tree in the foreground. It's right there next to the dumpster. We saw that from the view of the 2 police vehicles, and we saw the tree right behind the dumpster that's now on our left. Then I pointed to evidence placard 6. This is where Hinton was when he was shot. Evidence placard 7, which is pretty much obscured by the grass there, that is where we found the casing from Officer A's gun for that first shot. And that dirty area, ungrassed area that I pointed to, that's where we believe the officer was standing when he made the shot, based on where we found the cartridge. Hinton was only feet away. It's the width of this doorway. How close is that to someone who is holding a firearm with one in the chamber pointed at the officer? And then finally, the autopsy report supports the evidence that I've gone over here. The coroner refuted the idea that Hinton was shot from behind. She found that the bullet entered straight from the left side. So we've gone through our role, the legal requirements of this analysis, the events leading up to the incident. We looked at the gun and why we know it belonged to Ryan. We looked at the incident itself. Now we're going to go into the analysis. And the analysis is where we apply the law to the facts of the case. And again, I mentioned this before, the required perspective is that of a reasonable officer on the scene. And again, we have to stand in the officer's shoes and look through what we think were the officer's eyes and perspective and what was within the limits of the officer's knowledge. Again, we have to be objectively reasonable, and we listed out some of these. Severity of the crime, warnings of officers ignored. Was there a chase involved? Was a suspect armed? Was there an immediate threat of safety? And continuing, it's clear that Hinton's conduct indicates the nature and level of the threat he posed either to the officer or others because he ignored the officer's commands, he ran from police, he stopped to pick up a fallen weapon, he ran with the gun in the direction of the officer, he glanced at the officer with the gun in his hand, and he pointed the gun in a bladed manner at Officer A. And when I use the phrase bladed, that's just a colloquialism for when you're running in one or posed in one direction, but you turn your body. You can Google it just like I did. And there's also a part of this calculus of reasonableness that acknowledges that police officers are often forced to make split-second decisions in circumstances that are tense, uncertain, and rapidly evolving. And look, we went through frame by frame by frame over several minutes. This officer had just about that much time. And our conclusion, under the law, the evidence shows that it was objectively reasonable for Officer A to perceive that Hinton posed a serious threat of imminent harm to him and to others. When Hinton popped out through the dumpsters, moving toward Officer A with a gun in his hand, the applicable law and evidence indicate that Officer A was reasonable in his fear of harm. This shooting was justified. I'll now take questions, and if you don't mind, I'll have a drink of water.
Yeah, Prosecutor Phillips.
Oh, all right.
Go ahead, David. Oh, okay, thanks. Might be what you were going to ask me. Can you tell us why you chose to not have the BCI look into this as opposed to you doing the investigation with your investigators and taking the Cincinnati Police Department's investigation?
Sure. BCI does not always get involved in things like this. They help jurisdictions that don't have their own coroner's lab. They help jurisdictions that don't have the resources to have a full-fledged investigation. So we can do that on our own.
Butler County just had an officer-involved shooting. They immediately deferred to BCI, so it would not be perceived as any kind of a skewed investigation.
That's fine. I know the prosecutor up there, Mike Moser, very well. That's how he does it. I do it this way.
What was this decision not to take it to a grand jury?
Well, this is our fourth officer-involved shooting, and I've not taken any of them to a grand jury. I can't say that it will never happen in my tenure, but right now, we were able to make the decision because of the evidence presented to me, and I feel very confident that I did that in accordance with the law and with what the actual facts revealed.
We've heard a lot from Hinton's family. Can you speak a little bit about how the officers are doing?
No.
Are they okay?
When I was at the scene, I responded to this shooting along with 4 other assistant prosecutors, and I did ask the officers there if the Officer A was okay, and they said he was doing well. But I don't have his number, so I'm not going to call him, and that's not appropriate for me to. Yes.
Yeah, your review concluded yesterday. I know the officer returned back to work several weeks ago. Before this review was completed, is there anything that you would say in terms of changing that policy just to make sure that your office has a chance to clear these officers and make sure that they are justified before they are back out on the streets and armed?
That is a question for the Cincinnati Police Department. I am not their lawyer. I don't tell them how to do their job. I don't write their rules and procedures. That's their internal policy.
What do you say to people who still watch the video online and say Ryan Hinton was running away? What do you say to the public who's going to be watching this?
Well, when you watch a video in split-second time through a distorted wide-angle lens, people could reach lots of different conclusions, which is why I did not hasten in any way to jump to a conclusion. We took our time. I had my top 4 criminal lawyers working on this with me, and that's why we went frame by frame. And of course, we have the law that I'm required to follow, that of a reasonable officer in the situation of the moment, knowing what that officer knows. I am required by law to make the decision I made.
Did you determine that the officer was threatening, did you determine that the suspect was threatening the officer, or did you determine that there was a threat because he had the gun and could have used it in the future?
Well, there are 2 possible scenarios, and they both are valid in this situation. If Hinton had not used the gun on the officer, he could have escaped and used it on someone else pretty easily. But the real issue here is, what would a reasonable officer think seeing a young man running at him with a gun like this, running towards him? The feet away from this, look at the width of this door. We all know how big an apartment complex dumpster could be. We've seen them for years. This is how big it is. That is right there. And there is no time for us to have an extended analysis of this. We have to do it in accordance with the law, which is with what the officer knows to be true at the moment. Yes?
Okay, I think that's the last question. If you guys have questions, go ahead, Cameron. One more. You didn't ask.
You've had 4 officer-involved shootings in the last 6 months, less than that amount of time. Has there been any common threads throughout any of this? Is there anything that you think kind of connects these, or any not that they're all the same reason they happened, but is there anything that's common throughout them?
I can't say that there's anything common throughout other than they were tense situations. In 2 of them, one in Columbia Township and one in in the city. I can't remember which neighborhood it was in, but it appeared there from what we saw that the person holding the gun was charging right at the officers in a very deliberate and intentional way, almost as if they were welcoming being shot, and one of them was. So, but these are all difficult situations. They're all hard cases, and we have to take them with a case-by-case situation.
Can you answer a quick question about
No, we're
Mordecai
good.
Black?
No, he's in the court system right now. I can't.
Following up on Cameron's question, have you given any consideration to some policies that neighboring counties have to take every police-involved shooting to a grand jury?
Well, I have done that. I've looked at Butler County, talked to Warren County, who David Fornshell had an officer-involved shooting in May of his very first term. I think we have a little bit of a difference of style, and for me, because I have some resources, the CPD has resources, and I have a staff that I think is well prepared for this, we're doing it this way.
Okay, thank you. If you
Thanks
have
so
any
much,
questions,
everyone.
let us know.